So when I wrote the report, I put the late 20s, but
Okay, I'll put then late 1920s.
that's it, so. Nice job, Ed.
Okay.
Not that that changes anything, changing those small things, but,
Well, I depend upon the copy editors and the grammarians.
Okay.
So.
and I figured by the time I read it this afternoon, I'd see you
Okay.
shortly.
So is there a motion to approve?
I so move with the revision suggested.
Stephanie moves, and
I'll
second by Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Very good, thank you. All right, let's proceed with the, we have a participant here. Are you here for a specific application?
Good evening, everybody. I'm here only for 88 Lumber Lane,
Okay.
the estate of John McNamara.
All right, so we'll alter the agenda. If there is no objection, we'll take your application first that you're there to present, and all of you received the review report distributed yesterday or Sunday, I can't remember which. Let me see if I can bring it up here. And would you identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Brian Doyle. I'm attorney at Greenberg, Traurig in Bridgehampton. I appear this evening of counsel to the law office of Dennis Downs, who is the attorney for the estate of John McNamara.
Okay. All right, so this is the property on Lumber Lane in Bridgehampton, which is going to, the application for which is demolition of the entire house. As I indicated in the report, the assessor's date was 1897, but the actual date is 1902 for the build of this house. It sits on a fairly open parcel on Lumber Lane. Lumber Lane feeds into Montauk Highway, the main street, and it actually is one of the deeper lots close to the village center, extending all the way to Sag Harbor Turnpike here as well. The house, as I reported, was built by Daniel L. Chester. He was a Shelter Island-born individual and moved to Bridgehampton to open up a clothing and dry goods business, eventually locating on Main Street. And in a moment of irony, historical irony for him, as he was constructing a new building on the corner of Ocean Road and Main Street, Bridgehampton, a brick building to reduce the risk of fire to his stock. His location in the wooden building burned down. It actually was a fire communicated from another building at the time. And he might have been interested in that because in 1896 he had a similar experience where part of his store was burned as well, although the building was saved. Chester is a fairly significant figure for the hamlet of Bridgehampton. This is the store here where he built in 1907, opened in 1907, his new undamaged stock for sale. And this building basically stood alone on the corner at the intersection of Montauk Highway, Ocean Road, Sag Harbor Turnpike, and Lumber Lane for all by itself for almost 20 years. These stores here, the one-story brick facade buildings, were built by his son in the late 1920s. After Chester died, he was killed in a killed in an accident at a railroad crossing in East Quogue on his way to Riverhead. I'm not quite sure. Chester, the son, Kenneth, he had been living in New York City and moved out to take over the business and took the house. He was the only son, only child of the family, and inherited it. And in the midst of the Depression, he started selling the stores, and eventually sold the house, rented the house for a period of time, and then eventually moved to New York City. Afterwards, the house was purchased by a fairly prominent family out of Southampton society, and they would sell it to the McNamara's in 1952, who have occupied it for the last 70 years, so they've had the longest tenure. John McNamara was a pretty significant farmer for years in Bridgehampton. Had some rented land. The rented land ultimately was bought out and was bought by a broker, or owned by a broker, who eventually sold it to the town of Southampton, ironically, for preservation purposes about, I don't know, 1974 or so, I think, maybe. And after that, the McNamara's opened a liquor store in the Bridgehampton Commons, which they owned for pretty much maybe into the early 2000s, and has since been bought by someone else. So, from my point of view, the house is in decent shape. In recent years, it had been used as a rental, most recently by a summer rental for former town council person Nancy Grabowski, and they have since permanently stayed in Florida, so it lost perhaps its ideal tenant. Had for a period of time a handicap ramp for access for a member of the Grabowski family on its front. But the house sits open, very familiar in Bridgehampton, is in good shape structurally, and I think that without knowing exactly what a replacement would be, that I recommend that we react critically to the proposal for demolition and file our objection to the proposition. The Lumber Lane is a pretty significant residential street in Bridgehampton. It had been outlined in 2003 for many of the buildings, including this one, as something that should be looked to for preservation through a historic district. It was not identified in the most recent 2014 AKRF report. As we know, there were a lot of oversights in that report. But in any case, it has been noted and is noted in the community as a house of some prominence. So, comments from my colleagues first? Do you have
So
any thoughts?
There's also a detached garage. Do we know
A detached, yes, yeah.
that similar date or?
I don't know what the date might be on the garage. It obviously, I don't think was built in 1902. Many garages popped up in Bridgehampton in the 1920s as automobiles became more prominent.
It's a cement block construction in the
Mhm.
garage. It
Right.
didn't look to me to have any particular historic value, at least visually.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So any other thoughts about this? Do you wish to present anything with respect to,
I would simply note for the record some items that you did reference, which was that in the 2009 Bridgehampton Hamlet Area Report, this house was not designated as having any historic significance. That report did reference 26 other properties on Lumber Lane, but it did not reference this property. And the 2021 report adopted by the town entitled Bridgehampton's Historic Hamlet Review and Design Guidelines recommends the creation of a historic district, but does not include this home within that report. So I would just ask the board to take note of those two items.
yeah, I believe the 2021 proposal was basically focused on Main Street preservation and not looking into the residential neighborhoods on that particular report. The Ann Sanford report, which was 2009 that you referred to, I did not check, but it could also be the case that was not included in that report, and that might have also been why it was not included in the 2014 survey. Very often they pattern their judgments based upon earlier reports, and you can see that in the index to the 2014 report.
The 2009 is the Heritage Area Report.
2009,
The Heritage Area, was that the Heritage Area Report?
the Ann Sanford,
Yeah.
yes, report, yeah. So if there's no other comments and no opposition, we'll send back our comments that this is a loss. I made other recommendations in the report that I would ask whether or not the board agrees with them, that in the absence of knowing what the replacement structure might be like, that we basically commit to being in communication with the Architectural Review Board, which might be reviewing any proposed new construction. There have been a number of events in the Bridgehampton residential area where new housing has been totally inappropriate in its design for the existing neighborhoods. There's one on Lumber Lane now, a metal-sided building that exists, and there's one on Maple Lane, a modern house that exists in the middle of traditional style architectures. So.
You said that the setbacks were pretty uniform on that area, Lumber Lane, the types of the housing.
Well,
We're 88.
who knows what might be
Well, no, but
asked for.
currently, there's a
There's a
uniformity.
fair regularity to the spacing and the setbacks from the street, and the fact that the street has many open views that they are not masked by heavy landscape specimens of any kind. So that's one of an appealing feature of the neighborhood as well.
And I think you said you didn't object to the garage, I mean, from what.
The garage, I don't think is of historic
Exactly.
significance, and, you know.
Does Attorney Doyle have any, can shed any light on what's proposed, or or does he
Pardon?
have more information? Does
Yeah,
Attorney Doyle have more information?
obviously I can't commit to the exact plan that my clients are discussing, but it is not going to be a modern structure. It is something that, at least in the plans that I see now, you will be pleased with, and I will relay to them your concern that the home that they propose be consistent with what occurs on Lumber Lane, for which they and I are both familiar.
I agree with your assessment that Lumber Lane, especially in that stretch between, I guess it was Maple and
Maple
going
and-
down to the highway.
And Montauk Highway, yeah.
There is a nice feeling very
Right.
nice feeling to it.
Yeah. And there are several very old landmark-worthy structures on Lumber Lane itself, on the same side, the eastern side of Lumber Lane. And in fact, you know, it was basically outlined almost completely for a historic district in the 2014 AKRF study. Well, we'll make note of the comments that, you know, there would be hopefully no disruptive style architectural product coming forward. So, but we'll send our report in within the next few days, so the building department will get our response.
I do have one question. Does the new property owner, have they considered adaptively reusing the structure as part of an enlargement of a structure? Or is there some reason why they wanted to put this structure, which appears to be perfectly serviceable, into a dumpster as opposed to reusing it as part of an enlargement?
I don't know the particular answer to why they want to demolish it. I just don't have an answer on that.
And the other thing, based on what Stephanie said, is that recommendation for the Habitat for Humanity, the donation recycle, even though we'd rather see it preserved in place, if it's going to be demolished, the possibility of doing something besides putting the serviceable, be it the appliances or the fixtures or whatever part, windows into the dumpster, to possibly do that donation. That
I'll
seems
put a-
counter
Put
to,
a
counter to, that it's objecting to the demolition, but factually, in reality, that it might.
I'll make a note of it in the paperwork, okay, that the town's program is there. So, okay, if nothing else, all right, okay, thanks very much for your information.
Thank you as well. Thank
Right.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Just for the record, and this would even be for the public, I have been on a couple Wednesdays, have gone up to the recycling on Major's Path and donated a few things. And a couple gentlemen are there with, you know, the van, and they unload whatever you have, and
Are
Take it.
people actively picking it up for reuse there?
pardon?
Are people actively picking it up for reuse there?
Right, I mean, the Habitat on Wednesdays from 10 to 2.
So they take it to their.
Then they have the
facility.
Habitat truck and they take it back. They sit there for 4 hours or whatever that number of hours. But I think for the larger things, if anyone reads that Habitat flyer that the town has posted on their website, that for the larger ones, I think they actually would come and possibly retrieve it right on site for larger construction projects versus, just the homeowner, you know,
I thought
donating.
there was a different pickup, different drop-off for the large pieces, but I don't recall exactly.
So
In
I
any
just
event,
say
I
that
think
for
we
the
should just
general
move
public
on to
while
the
we're-
next.
So we can move on, I think, to 59 Bay Street, North Sea,
Right.
which is a demolition application.
I did not go there because the pictures that I saw were so vivid, and I had already been somewhere in Noyak where I couldn't really get near the house. And I just thought, because where they want to build, the house is way up by the bay.
This is it, right. It's a one-story
Yeah, like,
house that apparently has been modified
and added on to a
many
jillion
times.
times, yeah.
Fireplace.
And while I'm not wild about the new house that's proposed for there, at least the side facing the water is normal. There's this odd thing on the other side, but
Yeah. This property also has a two-story second house
Right.
that is being preserved.
yes.
That is not,
They talked
Go on.
about splitting the lot or subdividing the lot in the application. Because they said it was a double lot. That's why I could have two residences.
yeah, as you can see, this is the house that's
Yeah.
asked for. This is the
This
second
the
house
one
here.
That's the one-story house. that-
Yeah, the one up on the hill.
Who knows what kind of subdivision might be made, but that's
Well-
probably not our
Yeah,
domain there. And your assessment is that there is nothing worthy of,
didn't seem like there
Right.
was anything.
and the pictures that you referred to in the application,
Keep
well,
going, and the inside, is fine, but,
looks in good shape, that
Right.
was maintained. It looks like somebody wants a bigger two-story house,
somebody more
with-
important with more money bought the
and
property.
with, yeah, higher ceilings and things.
Yeah, I mean,
like that. The grounds are kept fairly nicely from these pictures.
I mean, it's almost like it could be a motel
Mm.
from the 50s. And the roof line is very loose.
Yes.
Yes.
Certainly a place for nice views, though.
Oh, yeah.
Would be done.
I actually think that you can show the drawings are in there too of the proposed.
This is the two-story.
That's the two-story, yeah, that they're keeping. I mean, the footprint is about the same size, but obviously it's you see that dormer, or the front door, over the front door, I don't know what's going on, it just kind of seems, I don't know, oddly placed.
Yeah. Looks a little
you know,
industrial.
Yeah.
It does. I'll hazard a guess that it might be a cathedral foyer, which, everybody has to have now. It goes all the way up.
Mezzanine, looking at the
Right.
water or something.
But this is,
But it's on
the
the other
door is,
side.
is on the side away from the wall.
Side facing the
True.
street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
How,
other,
how much of this can you see from the street? Do you have any idea?
well, it's back, but
It
You're
looks
gonna
like
see
it's a
that
view down the
roof.
driveway.
yeah, you're gonna see that odd roof. I mean, I don't know whether they're landscaping, and as we've talked about before, we can't really say.
Yeah.
But the other sides, I mean, while not, sparkling architecture, they're perfectly normal.
Yeah, not as frightening as the. Tudor
Exactly, the
Revival.
I had to stop myself, I wanted to say the Darth Vader front.
Does have that kind of angular, sinister.
Sort of, yes,
Yeah.
sinister is the word, that's a perfect word. It seems sinister.
But absent
Since we're
the
not the
questions,
ARB.
you're right, we can basically determine that there is not any concern here for
I don't
the
think
demolition
we're
of this
losing,
house, okay. So I will, and I'll do the paperwork on it.
thank you.
Okay. 52 Newtown Road, construction.
I mean, as you can see there, like whatever rhythm they had in their little cottages has been destroyed by bigger and bigger houses.
Okay, this is a house that is close to the Shinnecock Canal on the west side. And what do I want to get here? Oh, the oblique imagery, okay. This is also in the AKRF report in Hampton Bays, but it's given the Squiretown neighborhood designation. And just to get the where is 52 here?
I'm not familiar with the area, but the name, I think there's even a street, the Holzman family. I think there are another number of Holzman properties in
Yes.
the area.
There is a
All right.
road.
So this is the AKRF description there. I don't and didn't get a chance to check into the Holtzman history in Hampton Bays,
I
but
haven't either, but I just know, I think there's more than, was a group.
I noticed that there was either a Holzman Lane or and a Holzman
Yeah.
Place or something, two streets with that name. So I figured there must
But
be.
I think this one, I either read there in the affidavit that it was a wedding present from Christian and Christina to their son Christian, 1937.
and that's what is described in AKRF, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's where I read that.
Yeah. It does say the house appears to lack distinction architecturally.
Yep.
And I probably would agree with that, that it's a fairly simple construction. And I don't know anything about the Holtzmans as a historic reference for the persons involved.
I mean, the changes that are proposed, from what I can see here on their, elevations, are relatively minor. They're changing out some windows, which they look like they're already been replaced previously. They are rearranging a little bit of the porches and entry areas on the back. The front that faces the street, the only change there is replacement of an existing window. It looks like in kind. and the addition of a new wood stove flue. They're going to be adding a wood stove in one of the areas inside. But I'm not seeing any changes
I
here
think
that
there was a
really,
deck on the, possibly the right,
yeah, there's,
outdoor shower, which wasn't listed, but I think that was shown. Some interior,
but there, I mean, the changes again to
changing the
me are,
vinyl siding to cedar, which is an
Is-
improvement.
yeah.
Yeah.
But these changes I think are fairly minor, and I don't think is going to affect, whatever historic character remains here.
I think
It's
one
nice
place
that they're
is
not enlarging it, they're just,
putting sliders, but they appeared to be French doors. And, I mean, they were divided light, at least what I saw.
mhm.
The only thing that I was looking at, it was the possibility, particularly in front up at the top, when they said they were replacing, I think, the gable windows, up in the attic. It's just, I think there were a number of 6/1 windows, and haven't seen it close, but if they were original, to possibly replicate that versus putting no divided light or 1/1s.
Well, they
They're
are,
able to-
the existing one on the front for sure, and maybe the back, it's hard to tell on the photograph, is a 6/1, but given the wide frame around it, my guess is it's already a replacement window, a replacement vinyl window. And everything else on there is 1/1. It's not divided light.
That's what it looks like.
So, in your estimation, do you think that this is something that is significant enough that the changes merit some complaint?
I don't think so, no,
No,
Anybody?
no.
Okay,
no,
so there's no objection
no objection.
to the proposed changes, and I'll write up the paperwork and send it along. Okay, 173 Country Road.
Do you wanna, how do you wanna do this one? Do you wanna,
Yeah, I'll do it.
you wanna do it?
We reviewed this in 2018 for a modest project on the rear of the house. Some windows and doors and a kitchen area, not really visible from the street. In fact, most of this house is not visible from the street because of a very dense evergreen hedge in the front. So we updated the report a little bit with some new pictures and changing the description of the work, and have put it out as a draft again. So we visited it in 2018, we visited it again in 2022. It's in the AKRF as Remsenburg-Spionk Historic District 3. There's a number of other historic resources near it. It is in the potential historic district. AYB in the town records is 1900. There's also a barn behind the house, which is not mentioned in this application, which is also 1900. That one's going to remain as is. The siding, the roofing, the roof is actually red, asphalt shingles. It sounds stark, but it looks nice, and they're going to continue with that. They're doing a large addition to the right side of the house, the north side. They have turned the roof sideways, and it's sort of a 1.5-story addition, where the original house is 2 stories with the gable facing the front. You can't really see anything unless you peek up the driveway, and then again, you only see sort of the southeast corner of the house. So they plan on doing the addition, which is fairly substantial compared to the size of the house. Then they're doing some smaller things. They're adding shutters. They're adding a small shed-roofed front entry porch, just about 6 feet wide or so at the front door. I felt that a little gabled porch would look nicer than the shed, and they're also doing the shed with a standing seam copper roof, which, other than in the addition, there is no copper roof anywhere on the house. So I felt if they did a porch with more of a gable, they could do the asphalt shingles
yeah.
facing the sides, more in keeping with something that you might see in the 1900s. They're going to enlarge a wood deck on the rear of the house, changing all the sort of seamless gutters to half-round gutters. Had no problem with that. They're going to remove several mature trees that are in the location of the addition. Again, because you can't see anything from the street. It's a shame to lose the trees, but definitely there's not a lot of choices where to add on to the house. So the house was originally, well, in 1873. It doesn't show up on the maps. And the neighboring property is the cemetery, and the Presbyterian church was built in 1853. At that time, the area was still known as Spionk. In the 1902 map, the house does show up with 3 outbuildings. 2 of them are gone. The third one, we believe, is the barn that still exists. By that time, the area had been changed to the name of Remsenburg. And a second Presbyterian church, known as the chapel, had been added on the other side of the church from this property. On the 1916 map, as in the 1902 map, the property is owned by W.C. Rogers. Seems to continue in the Rogers family for a while. The Rogers were fairly prominent in the neighborhood, hence sort of a short distance from here is Rogers Lane. The northeast side of the house where the addition is being proposed is a mix of different windows, casement windows, double hung windows, different sizes. None of them appear to be original. There is a little wing that comes off the north side of the house, a little bump out with a reverse gable on that side, and that will be engulfed by the addition, so we are losing that. But again, as I say, there's not a lot of choices where to add on to the house. Like so many of the other older homes in this area, it does have a circular round brick cellar, which we see quite often.
Noticed that, another
Yeah.
one.
And that's going to be retained, although it'll have a little bit different entry in this new construction.
Okay, so I didn't really object to the addition or the work that was on there. I did have a couple of suggestions. One was the consideration of perhaps changing the shed-roofed front porch to a little gable. The other was that the addition is in line with the front wall of the house. And if the addition were just pushed back 6 inches or so that that front corner of the house would read, it would help you identify and recognize the original house better. And the last thing is that on the front of the house and there on the side, you can see little roof skirts that come around the corner at the bottom of the roof. There's 6 of them basically on the house, and they're removing them. So
All of them?
all of them. yeah.
All of them. I think for the gutters, perhaps?
I've done them before where the gutters just come around the corner onto those, so it isn't really a problem.
Yeah, I couldn't understand really why they were doing that,
Yeah.
especially since some of those are going to be changed on areas of the house that are not being worked on.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah,
like the front.
Yeah.
yeah.
So this side is where the addition comes out, so this appendage on the house, the side gable, do get engulfed into the new addition. But on the front of the house and the rear of the main original portion, you have these roof skirts, and they're taking them off. So my suggestion was to retain them.
That's good.
And that's the barn. At this time, there's nothing planned to be done to that. Again, circa 1900. there's the circular cellar.
So,
As you can see on this map from Google, the red stars are other historic resources in the area, so there's quite a few right in that section of South Country Road.
well, comments from anyone? I kind of, when I saw your picture pointing out that the returns on the roof were to be, it seemed to me rather odd that that decorative feature would be lost.
Yeah.
What is the roof of, is it it's reversed? Well, there's
Yeah.
already
When
a
you-
small reverse, and you said it's
Right.
going all the way out.
When you're
to
looking
the
at the front of the house, it's a gable from the street, and then they've done it to the side coming out.
Oh, that way,
Yeah.
So
Okay,
basically,
so-
you're looking at the roof and a dormer,
okay.
because the addition is really like a 1.5
That's
story.
right, yeah, you did say that, okay. So it's not following the roof line of what's,
No, no.
But if they could just push that wall back a little bit, so the
Yeah.
corner of the original mass red, then you'd be able to identify that mass and know that this was a later addition.
So no real objection, but aesthetic
Just a few details. Yep.
recommendations to make. yeah.
Yep.
So everybody's in agreement, so we'll leave it at that, and would you do the
Yep.
recommendation and return on that? Okay. 17 Lockwood Avenue. Which is a place we have visited twice before. And today we got a little bit more accurate description of the work for the project that was being planned. Let me just, and Susan uploaded the little piece of history from the 2019 or so when,
And I didn't write that, but I figured if anybody was looking, and then of course you added something, so everybody
Right.
had seen both of them. It was Ed's history.
yeah. This is the house. This was, the house was built 1935 on a lot that was a small development on Lockwood Avenue. This is actually on the corner of Montauk Highway and Lockwood Avenue, and the AKRF has a mislabeling of the address in its study on this. It's officially 17 Lockwood Avenue, not 2469 Montauk Highway.
Yes, okay.
So, 1935, the house has had some remodeling as well over the years. The AKRF study kind of misidentified the house as being a very early Bridgehampton house associated with a farmer who once owned the land. But it is not the case. And the proposal, this house had we examined this house for a garage transformation into a pool house in 2019, and a glass house. And the application here was originally described as correcting water damage on the interior. But as we can see, there'll be a whole bunch of windows and other replacements design going on. I did this little elevation study to just help focus everything from the jumble of pictures that were in that application that were of the interior that was somewhat confusing. The house is very difficult to see because it's obscured. I have an image of vegetation. Even though it's a fairly large parcel on the sides, the vegetation and garden areas really isolate the ability to take pictures, so that the application's pictures of the side elevations were at an angle. They could not encompass them full on. But anyway, this is the front changes that are proposed. This shows 2 windows being installed in the sun porch area where 3 once existed. These side windows to the door also are undergoing a little change.
Just looking at that one, to me, my one comment was just the door itself. If that's the original door, it seemed like that might be preferable to keep instead of having 3, the windows and the doors all look the same. But that's, instead of
Yes,
waiting
and
to
they're
the
also
end.
putting in some columns, I think, in the.
Right, they took the sides off, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying, looking at that, if there's some way to retain an original door, it might be preferable. But that's my only comment. I'll make it there while you have the picture.
Right. Well, the other thing is that it might not be accurate
It might not be
portrayal
accurate,
of the
you're right.
door, yeah.
You're right.
Is it my imagination, or is the roof on the photograph a hip roof?
No, it's
No.
just the angle.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
there looks like there's a large overhang in the front, and the drawing looks like it's been chopped off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, I don't see them altering the roof as,
from the side elevation.
yeah, it's just the perspective element that's involved in
I think that-
the
Yeah.
visual presentation, yeah. And actually, you can hardly take a picture of this house. You have to be very close. That's why the roof seems so shallow
Yeah, it's
in
distorted
the front.
from the
Yeah.
end.
You're so
Yeah.
close to the front of it. This is the side proposed. This is from the application.
There's removal of chimney, I think, too.
Yeah, pardon me, this is the rear elevation, and they're installing 3 windows where there once was 1, and changing the configuration of the door on the sun porch and the windows there as well. This is the, would be the sun porch side, which would be the south-facing elevation for the house. Again, basically a lot of change in the fenestration.
So the overhangs in this photo and in the drawing look more proportional than when we looked at the front. It did look like
Yeah.
there was a heavy shadow there,
Yeah.
like it had a big overhang, but you're not really seeing that in
Right.
this photo.
It's maybe 8 inches, 12 inches.
They are changing the number of windows from 7 to 6 in the front here, as well as putting divided lights in.
Is that like a pilaster or something on the sun porch, like between the windows? Or
I couldn't tell whether it was a gutter or,
there's a lot
the-
more space. No, I don't mean the picture. I mean the elevation.
oh,
Those windows are like, they're making the sunroom darker.
right, there's gonna be one less window because they've got
Right,
a little
and
more wall.
it just seems like, and there's more wall, yeah. There's more space between the window, the pairs of windows.
And this would be the Montauk Highway facing side, the north side of the house. That is proposed. Removal of a window. And 2 windows being replaced for 1 window on the side, first floor of the side of the house. but the house is not historic, and the level of obscurity, this is taken from the public byway, so you can kind of see how close the house is, and masked by foliage. This is the driveway entrance to the house as well. The pool house and old garage is back here that we reviewed in 2019. And this is from across the street, the view of the house. So to me, any changes are not going to be easily noticed or have an impact on the
Agree.
perceptions of people around. So my suggestion is no objection. And,
That
any
is
comments about?
an AKRF, though, this one is, I think, 88.
Yes, it is Bridgehampton 88.
Yeah,
yes.
Bridgehampton, is-
Yeah.
yeah, that just, even though it was incorrectly explained, I guess.
So, okay, and in this case, it's really potentially a question of whether it should be there or not.
Understood.
Okay. All right, we can move on. I'll do the paperwork on that. 246 Scuttle Hole Road is another revisit.
And let me, I'll just do a quick review of that. This is
well,
one that we
yeah,
did in
I'll just-
December, as you're pulling up, December 2021. And Vicki at the time made the site visit and also did the response. I had done a history at the request of the then chairman in 2015, and it appears to have been related to the Jonah Tarbell family, who he is from the 1600s, settled in Mecox, had a son, William. William appears in this approximate area, but not exact location, in 1800, but the AYB of the house is 1740. Later on, the maps show his son Charles Turbell living there, and also there was an article saying the house burnt down and was replaced. Another article said it was built in 1810. So I'm not going to even try to figure that out, but there are some discrepancies, even though when you look at the interior pictures, you see the beams, and there is a question to the age of the house, and then also if it was a house that was moved to this, an older house moved to this location. But after Charles's wife died, he married a Harriet Osborne Lester, and it was her stepdaughter and husband, Frank Edwards, that inherited it. They appeared to be in the poultry farm business. And of note after that, it was the Yastrzemski family lived here for a number of years. And Carl was, of course, played baseball and was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I think it was in the 1980s. And the last family of note, well, except of course there's a current family, but a family of note was Marvin and Mary Ellen Barrett, and she was the daughter of Irving Berlin. She lived in the house for a number of years, and she just died recently, this past July at the age of 95. So there's a house with some interesting architectural features that has been altered, and some interesting people who have resided there through the years. That being said, we reviewed it when Vicki did it. We had no objection to that. This application is just some minor changes. I called, I thought I was calling the architect, but the number I called was the homeowner. She explained, and it was the removal of, there's a picture of the staircase that is shown, and that was reportedly, the original was replaced, and that's the 1980s staircase. And she said she was coming down that in December sometime with boxes and twisted her ankle. And it was pointed out to her that those steps actually needed, they had recommended that they be changed. So this application addressed that by putting the staircase toward the rear of the house where the master bedroom's going to be. And I think from what it says, it connects from the second floor down to the basement. So when you look at the one paper that I sent, if you're able to pull it up, I just did the comparisons from what photographs they provided or Vicky took, what was shown in the 21 application and what's appearing in the 2022, and they were just minor changes. You can see where there was a.
Yeah, I didn't download that, yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Okay, the one story was bumped to a two-story. Looks like there was a roof line extended. And in another section, it looks like the roof was, the shed roof in front was lengthened to meet the roof line, and one of the windows was shortened. And I think on another elevation, a door was switched to a window. So what I'm telling you were basically Vicki and I felt minor changes to what we
Right,
already reviewed and didn't object to,
right, we have no objection to it.
so.
I mean, the changes really are minor. There've been multiple changes over many, many years to this home. And I have no objection.
And this change is actually based on health and safety. So I can see, and no construction has started. So I did drive by and she acknowledged, of course, nothing has started. So this is all, we are receiving the plans pre-construction. So I would happily make the
So you're recommending no
No
problem?
objection.
No objection?
minor changes and I'll
Would you do
file.
the paperwork on it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
And
Susan.
I won't send that report because they already have it. The history,
They have everything.
they already have the
They
history,
have
so.
everything.
Okay, 2635 Noyak Road.
I went by this house as well. This is actually sort of we are the landmarks board, but it's kind of a landmark on Noyak Road. It sits right adjacent to the wildlife refuge, Elizabeth Morton Wildlife Refuge.
Oh, yeah.
And I
And-
zoom out where we can see
Yeah.
it there. Yes, this is the
I-
wildlife area.
Yeah, the entrance is just to the west of the house. Yeah, there. I didn't do a report like you guys do, and I feel like I should have.
Well,
It's a lot of change.
that they're proposing.
It's doubling the size of this
Yeah.
house.
Um,
There is one part of the house that's, I find objectionable, that's going to be removed, but they're adding on both sides of the house quite a bit. So, yes, they're leaving, like, the first thing that we did. See, nothing to the left of the front reverse gable is there now, except for the porch.
Okay, yep.
So this is what you're saying, this is all added.
All of that is new, and all of the stuff on the other side is new, too.
Uh,
I mean, there is some house that comes out that way, but it doesn't come as far, I believe it stops roughly where the porch is. And they're just,
Let's see if we have a picture of it in the application here. Yeah, it's-
Listen,
There
there's
are, let's see, I did-
AKRF property,
I don't know if there's any pictures.
Noyak 3, AYB, 1890,
Yeah, you could,
There, well,
but there,
this is the part that I find objectionable, which will be gone.
okay, yeah.
That oddly roofed.
This area here,
Put a deck on top,
yeah,
sloped roof.
yeah. So, I mean, the house has been
That, and
modified.
that you can see as you're driving down Noyak Road.
Can you?
See that side.
Yeah,
You don't see so much the front because by then you're crashing if you keep looking at the house.
yeah.
But you see how much it's gonna change. They're, taking off a little bit of the porch.
Hmm.
I mean, they're doing several $1 million worth of work, at least given their budget that was shown.
And the size of the additions there. Yeah, this house,
I wonder,
Probably-
was it the Jessup's house for Jessup's Neck?
no.
No?
The house sits on a site that was occupied by a Pearson first, and then occupied by David B. Wiggins.
Okay.
Wiggins was a North Fork origin, I believe, came over to Sag Harbor and Noyak area. Actually, I think he lived across the street originally from this house
Across the
in
street
Noyak.
is the golf course now.
That's right. And he opened up a clothing store in Sag Harbor, and got into real estate, and was actually was fairly prosperous. I think he also opened a clothing store in Westchester County in the 1880s or 90s. How, a small town person would
Wow.
get there, but that, I think, failed, and he quickly retreated to his existing business back in Sag Harbor area. But he engaged in real estate transactions in Noyak, and might have been instrumental in the cottage development in the 1890s there.
Shelby's houses?
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
you know,
'cause it's just adjacent. It's
Yeah,
on the other side of the
yeah, there was
wildlife.
I think he had at the turn of the century, he had a son-in-law, I can't remember his name, who was involved in the,
Osborne?
no, not Osborne, yeah. In the promotion of it, and the name probably is on a 1902 map. I don't know if it's worth trying to chase that down, but in any case, he was a fairly significant economic player in the development of Noyak itself as it emerged as a refuge for Brooklynites.
I have some old, the 1916 Belcher Hyde, I guess, that they sell downstairs. And I remember seeing that name Wiggins, because my college roommate's last name was Wiggin.
Let's see, now,
It
Noyak.
wasn't Wiggins, it was just Wiggin. My name is Gibbons, not Gibbon.
Let's see, it would be in town of Southampton East. McGaw, Fairchild, Richardson, Rogers, well, here's D.B. Wiggins Jr. So
Here's Pearson.
this is, and this would be Wiggins Sr., David Wiggins Sr. In the house. This is the 1902. Wiggins Sr., I know, was born 1822, died 1904.
Okay.
And this is the development of the Cottage Association that
Right.
was involved. I don't see the name that was there. So, anyway, kind of connected to, I think, a historical person, if more research was done, would, evolve that way. But the house doesn't seem to have any original integrity of its structure and the actual ability to determine the date.
Yeah, the inside was at some point gutted.
Yeah,
I can just see, by the finishes and the materials.
I mean, it says the AYB is 1890, but I suspect it might even be earlier than that. But it just would need more research, and given the significance of it, I don't think it's worth pursuing myself.
Just tell you what I saw.
The one thing I found, and I don't know, it bothered me, was that stainless steel, I think there was a flue pipe on the roof that looks like would be visible from the street. Because I haven't really seen that on too many.
On the plans you're talking about?
On the
Proposed? Oh, I see it.
Yep.
Every time I looked, I saw the stainless
in the
steel
back.
flue pipe. It's in the back, but it looks like it might be visible up over from the front. I've seen it on a new development of condos as you come into town, and they're
Yeah.
distracting, but that's the one thing.
Yeah, you might be able to see. I don't know how far, it's a bit back.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you look at the south elevation proposed, it's
The
way at the far end of that gable. And yes, it will be visible, but it doesn't look like it's going to be very far above the gable.
Yeah, it's probably only like 3 feet.
Yeah. Given everything else that's going on here, I think that's a small matter.
That could be.
It's
I mean,
definitely
it's
the house.
it's a major transformation that's being
Of the house.
undertaken,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be like at least twice as big as it was.
Yeah, but I think,
But
it's going to correct some of that odd thing
Yeah, I
at the
mean,
east side that it just doesn't work. And I think it actually looks, at
yeah,
least
it
on
doesn't.
paper, it
it's not
looks
objectionable.
attractive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an attractive building.
Yeah.
It's just the size of it
yeah,
is what got me.
yeah. Well, it's a big parcel.
Yeah, it is a big parcel. And the house is a, I'd say it's at least 100 feet off the road.
Yeah, it's well back.
So,
So, do we want to say anything?
your house is too big? I mean, we can't say that here.
No, it's
appropriate.
it's over 3-acre property.
Yeah, exactly,
And it's smack in the middle of the property,
right.
well back from
They're
the,
moving the pool and everything.
yeah, the pool's going to be in the way back. They're changing out the sanitary system for a new innovative system.
I mean, what's proposed, I don't object to. I don't object to, except that it just, like I said, it's 17 times. It's big. But it's proportionally done, I think.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
It looked like, to me, and I haven't been up that way in a while, it was proportional with that solarium off to the left, which I assume is
West.
the east.
It's the west.
Looks like it's west, excuse me, thank
Sorry.
you, the west, it's recessed, but then the windows look like they did not match the rest of the house.
Yeah.
They may not be as visible back that far, but they looked larger and, what they
It's
call it.
labeled the solarium, yeah. I know, when I went to print it, for some reason, I only got a part of the sheet, of each sheet. And it was 36 pages, and I was like,
Oh.
I didn't want all of it, but I got it. Yeah, I mean, those windows on the side are bigger than anything else in the house.
Greenhouse, almost.
But it does have, a shingle roof, and
Mm.
they're double hung windows, and
So, okay, basically though, there's no objection to the transformation taking place. And do we really have any suggestion otherwise on anything? Okay. Okay, well, okay, I'll do the paperwork on that too, as we get through this. 22 Bayview Avenue, Hampton Bays. Which is a remodel.
That's the one I was looking at over the weekend and noted that there were no interior pictures. And today I realized there was also no description and no current elevations. They had the proposed elevations, but not the current ones. So I believe that Tara requested the interior photos yesterday.
Can I ask a question that's puzzled me since, why do we need interior pictures? We have no purview over the inside of the house. I mean, it tells us something about the property.
Yeah.
It does, it provides information,
Yeah.
whether it's
It
intact.
provides the possibility of dating, for example,
dating of it,
and of
that's-
remodels that might have taken place.
Remodels.
If it's a demo,
A lot of
if it's a
times you
demo,
can-
there may be artifacts that we would like to
Yeah,
suggest be
okay,
retained
right.
for
Yeah.
reuse.
I mean, it's come up before, and that's the same answers we
Right.
And then if you
generally.
don't have a, particularly with COVID, if you don't get a chance to see the interior, of course, down there with Bill and Stephanie, they get in all of
Yeah.
them, just
How do you guys
about.
get
Got
into
all
them?
those good interior pictures.
We
but
Call first, and
Often
you know
we
them
haven't,
all?
don't have
We
another
know
way
some of them.
to judge unless they're
Show up.
provided, at least that's.
Helps to have lived in the neighborhood all your
The-
life.
But I think as Stephanie pointed out, we don't really need as many of the,
Not Bayview Avenue.
the bathroom or bathroom pictures. It's the functional living areas and the historical aspects.
Yeah, well, to me, some of the most valuable interior pictures are when you can see in the attic or the basement, and you can see framing, you can
Yes.
The
see the
framing,
actual
exactly,
condition
the
of the
attic.
I
structure.
was just thinking about the ones where you just see
Right.
couches and window curtains.
Yeah,
and-
people's personal effects is not what is of interest here. What's of interest is the construction of the structure and its condition. And,
So
I
I
get
just
it.
go through
Yeah.
them quickly
Let's
and
move
don't
on.
look at the ones that,
yeah.
I
Well-
look at the ones that I think are pertinent. and-
In this particular case, I mean, this building, the exterior looks to be all replacement materials already.
Yeah,
It doesn't look to have any particular historic character to it.
Doesn't
So
appear,
even
But it
getting
also-
interior pictures here, I don't think is gonna help us with a recommendation.
it actually looks like, to me, it's a demolition reconstruction. I mean, there's a whole extra floor it's extra floor, a garage, first floor garage, and,
Well, it's a story and a half now.
right.
So it looks like they're pushing up that half story into a full story.
I'm not familiar with that area. I assume the same thing. It's right down on the bay. I looked it up on,
is it a
you know,
good,
the
is it in a
Google
good
Maps.
location?
I assume the same thing is happening to the other houses in the area, but it looks like a totally different house versus,
It's not particularly distinctive to begin with,
No,
and it's probably not going to be too distinctive
Afterwards.
as a result of what's being done to it. So, do we have any other concerns that might, evaluation? Okay, seems like we can clear this. There's no objection to it, and I'll do the Hampton Bays response. Okay, Nathaniel Rogers, COA, we get a chance to consult together,
We need to-
and that probably won't happen until after Labor Day.
Exactly.
So things have been extremely busy, and
Say the least.
after Labor Day, there'll be a moment to catch a breath. Referrals, we do not have anything on the agenda that is listed. East Pond Lane, Eastport, the application, which was on hold from last meeting.
Right. Well, there's been nothing that has happened since that time because we're trying to get done with 29 Dock Road first. I've met with the owner of 3 East Pond Lane, and she has been requested to do some research on the history of her house, because I think a lot of what we would find worthy of landmarking is going to be wrapped up in the history of the house rather than in its current condition, which is with vinyl siding and replaced windows and a number of other aspects that make it questionable as to whether we would find it worthy of a landmark. So before we go to a full narrative development, I wanted to see if there was enough history there to warrant further efforts.
This is 3 East Pond Lane.
Yep, and there are 3 structures there, the main house, and then there's a garage next to it. You can see where the 2 cars are parked. And then there's a little garage structure in the back, which apparently also is an older structure. And it's wrapped up with the whole Tuttle history of the immediate neighborhood, which there have been some changes in the neighborhood lately, as you can see from the garage area a couple doors west.
Kind of in a not in a historic
What is next to it?
neighborhood.
Well, the neighborhood has some historic aspects to it. The pond there was dammed at one time, and it was one of the early mill ponds in the area. This house was a Tuttle house. It's kind of right in the crook of East Pond Lane there, right adjoining Montauk Highway. Actually, it's not the one in the crook, it's the one next in. It was owned by a Captain Tuttle at one time, so there's a name to go doing some research on. And there's a Tuttle residence next door, and then there's the Tuttle mower station, which we have had discussions about before, that used to be a blacksmith forge facility. And there's a number of other Tuttle residences in the neighborhood as well.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Tuttles of Eastport related to the Tuthills of Riverhead and Jamesport?
Probably.
I mean, it just sounds like the name is almost the same, just spelled differently.
It was changed way back, but if you go back.
Brent, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
End of question.
Yeah. So this is, for the time being, on hold. No action.
Okay. So, 29 Dock Road, is another Davis project.
Davis and Hyde. This we presented at our last meeting. We went over the application. There was some questions about the solar panels on the roof of the dormer in the front of the house and whether they would affect the historic character of the facade of the house. So I will let Bill discuss the solar panel aspect. And then the other issues were, we needed an owner's consent form, which has now been received. Both owners have signed it. And also, we needed a tax map to attach to the back. We now have that as well. Plus, there was some errors in the original submitted application, so I requested that the owner go back and resubmit the application with corrected information, because it will become part of the long-term public record of this property, which was done and resubmitted. So we now have all of the information available. And Bill, if you want to talk about the solar panels and their visibility or not.
Okay, so as you're traveling west on Dock Road, you wouldn't see these because they're on the other side of the roof. So it's only on the west side of the roof that you see it.
It's on the dormer side, on the dormer?
It's
On the
It's
dormer.
on the dormer.
Right, you can see it
Yep.
here on the map.
Yes.
there.
Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
that one panel, right?
So it's
Like
it's like a
two.
pair of panels
Okay,
together,
okay.
yes. But it isn't on the east side. So as you're approaching it from the east side, you can see the two large trees that block the house. You wouldn't see it even if they were there, but they are on the other side. As you're headed east on the road, you don't really see them because the dormer is sort of a second floor roof, and the pitch is reduced from the rest of the house. You get a glimpse of them if you're looking for them, but there is no sort of straight-on, blatant look of a solar panel. If you're looking for it, you'll notice that there's an edge there, but you're not gonna get a big reflection off it or anything and say, wow.
You won't be blinded by it.
Yeah, there's nothing that says, wow, they're screaming solar panels.
This is the one that had the array in the back?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Way in the
Further-
back.
Way back, right?
Yeah, it's not in this photo, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty deep lot, and you really can't see anything
Yeah.
beyond the immediate facade of the house and the front of the garage.
Craftsman one, right?
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, so you can see the solar panels there, they're way in the back.
Yep.
And they're very low.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I was just placing it in my brain, in my head. I have no objection to that.
Yeah. So the story with this one is that the owners would like to have a recommendation that this be worthy of landmarking, subject to their receiving an easement offer from CPF that they would find acceptable. So similar to the pathway that we followed for 121 South Road in West Hampton. So that's where this sits. And Ed, I can't remember exactly, and it was maybe when Sally was still chair, how we did this with the town board for 121 South Road. I found a copy of the resolution recommending landmarking, but I think that resolution went in after the whole easement issue was squared away for 121 South Road.
This had
Um,
famous owner or
Is it-
renowned?
It's a duck farm. It was
The
a
duck
duck
farm?
farm, nothing particularly renowned about the owner, but
Oh, okay.
this was one of the early homes for a duck farming family, and it was intimately associated with the whole duck farming
Farming, yeah.
operation, which,
Mhm.
for this area of our community, this is like their sole claim to fame,
Right.
was the massive amount of duck farming that went on in the early, latest 1800s and then early
Early
on into the mid-1990s, or mid-1900s, excuse me.
So this is the letter that
Okay,
we provided for 121,
okay.
and,
Okay, so it's easement acquisition recommendation.
right,
Could you forward that to me, please?
I can.
I
right?
would be happy to draft up such a recommendation if we can. I assume we would need to vote on it tonight as to make that recommendation.
So,
Okay.
I will send it along.
Okay.
Do you want this voted on?
Well, I guess that's,
Is there a timing issue that,
no, I don't think there's a timing issue, as long as the board is in agreement that we find this worthy of landmarking, should the owner have an easement offer that is acceptable to them. If that's the feeling of the board, then I'd say let's go ahead and write the letter. I think when we eventually do the resolution, though, I think we have to have a vote at that point, is that
yes,
correct?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
all right.
Okay. So if we can send a letter at this point without doing the vote, if everybody's okay with that approach, then we'll do it that way.
Okay, and I'll send the letter on, circulate it with the
I will make.
conditions that
Yes.
we just kind of laid out, that we would be voting on this at a future meeting.
Mhm.
And we'll proceed from there.
Okay, so if you would like to send me that, the one at least done for 120 South Road, I will modify that to fit the needs of this particular application, circulate it, make sure everybody's happy with it, and then
Right.
we can send it on.
Very good.
All right.
Very good. All right.
That's what we'll do.
So that being done, we can, I was forwarded a request for the formation of a Bridgehampton Historical District today from the head of the Civic Association, who proposed a district that runs a little bit larger than the one that had been previously thought about just for Main Street, Bridgehampton. So at some point, I would sit down and also talk with the town historian, who has prepared some draft material and concept for the Bridgehampton Main Street District, and see how much there might be involved in stretching the boundaries further to the ones that the Civic Association was talking about, and take into account all the things that would be involved with that.
I'd recommend meeting with Janice also.
Okay. We can do that by Zoom type?
Oh, I don't know, but, you know, any kind of landmark districting would be through land management. Would be a land management project.
Right, well, I mean, basically, this is setting a concept for the
Yeah,
size of it.
I would
yeah.
meet with Janice, because
Yeah.
it's gonna involve funding and getting grant money and consultants and everything.
I'm not sure the town board was involved in getting more consultants.
That's what Janice wants.
Well,
She's in charge of land management.
well,
I would meet with Janice.
Yeah. Obviously, more discussion is going to have to take place, so we'll check it out as we go along. The windmills, basically, is kind of off our agenda, isn't it?
It's off the agenda, and I can certainly remove it from the agenda for now. It's now shrink wrapped. It looks like little marshmallows over at the far side of the Great Lawn, and the village is in the process of putting together a team of architects, et cetera, to do the plans and specifications for restoration. So I keep reminding the mayor whenever I see her that a COA will be needed, and that we should probably see the plans and specs before they're finished, and certainly before they're put out to bid, so that we do not run afoul of our issues here. But I can take it off the agenda for now. It may be a little while.
The other aspect of this, is there an official town board resolution that designates?
I think that was done, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So-
Because it was subject to the village taking ownership and an IMA being completed. The village has taken ownership. They did so, as I understand, on the day it actually landed on the Great Lawn. And I've also been given to understand that the IMA has been executed with the town. So those two conditions being satisfied, I believe it is now landmarked.
Yeah, I know there were some tentative elements that were involved in that, I think.
Okay.
But, anyway, I'll. Okay, anything on the,
Short demolition and construction list in progress. And I'll move on to the ZBA. There's only one that I have a comment on, and it was from, I just reviewed the one from July 28th. It was at 9 Yacht Club Road in Remsenburg. The West Hampton Yacht Club Squadron, they want, it's an AYB 1938, and there's a 1949. They want to raise the building and add an access ramp.
That must come before us, yes. It is a historic building.
Because I think there was that the one that was floated across?
No,
was it
that, the
different?
one
I
that
don't
was
know.
floated across is, no, this is the older one.
Okay,
This is the older one that was built after the 1938 hurricane wiped away the previous one.
okay.
And, yeah, it's been there ever since the 1938 hurricane.
is that it? That,
It's at the planning board. I'll send that.
It's, that's the property. Ed, if you go up, you see where the swimming pool is? See the swimming pool? Covered swimming pool to your left? That's the building right there where your cursor is. That's the building we're talking about.
okay.
So what I'll do is I will send you that. I just reviewed it this week, and even though it was in July, sometimes if I don't see something outstanding, it wasn't being demolished, I didn't write you at the,
No, but
probably
it's gonna be
skimmed it. But I'll send it,
substantial
and then we
changes.
can request that. You let me know tomorrow if we should remind them
Okay,
that it needs to come here.
and I'll probably have to recuse myself because I'm a member,
So,
so.
anyways, I'll send that to you. So that was for the planning board on the 28th. The planning board for August 1st and the ZBA for August 8th and, August 4th and August 15th were all repeats or no concern.
Okay. There's nothing to report on the landmark inspections or the landmark maintenance grants for nonprofits. On the certified local government status, Vicky and Barbara are looking for 2 remaining vitas for the package to be sent in, which will go in after Labor Day
After
too,
Labor
I
Day.
believe.
After
Yeah.
Labor Day, I think we're in pretty good shape. We have
Yeah.
most everything that we need.
Yeah, I think, basically the kind of description of the backgrounds that we have are designed to ensure state and federal authority that basically, that we, quote, have some qualification, and that we're not basically just amateurs
I know I'm
and
one of them.
I'm sorry?
political
I know I'm
hacks
one of the people
that
you
are
need.
appointed
It's
to
Right.
boards.
Yeah, we just did a very simple.
So,
Yeah, I saw it. I'll do it soon.
No problem.
I just had a lot of computer problems that didn't get resolved until recently,
Okay.
so.
did you get your email problem straightened out, or your?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can actually open files now.
Oh, okay.
Because I could get on to the emails, but I couldn't open any of them.
Hmm.
It kept denying me.
Okay.
But it's over.
Okay, so the CLG business is on track. Do we have anything else on our
One quick
agenda?
thing.
Tim?
The Friends of the Big Duck reached out to me. The Big Duck has a boo-boo right now. The front door was shattered in a lawnmower incident. So it's currently boarded up. And I believe there's some negotiation between the town and the county about the replacement of
Paying
the
for the
door.
Who pays for it?
And we were asked if there was any way the landmarks board could intervene and check in and make sure it doesn't get lost in intermunicipal,
Arguments, yes.
'cause
County owns the duck.
right, but I don't know if the county is trying to get the town, if the lawnmower belonged to the Parks Department in the maintenance. So I don't know, there's probably emails and, there's probably emails
Yeah.
in,
You have any idea how long ago this incident occurred?
may have been the beginning of the month.
Oh, okay, so, I mean,
The speed of,
this
getting that
is,
taken care of. I guess
it
the
is
concern-
tourist season where
It is major tourist season.
the
parking
Big Duck
lot was-
receives a lot of visitors.
Parking lot was full and there's like safety cone and tape and a plywood, board on the front door.
Did it damage
And
the
they
duck
may,
itself?
we may
It
have to
doesn't I believe it was just the glass in the door.
to say if it's just the glass, but if it's the door, we might need to review it.
The
It's the
rotary
same-
mower picked
I know, there you
picked
go,
up a
baby.
stone and
And just shot it at.
fired it at the right
Christmas.
place. I have, I have about 40 panes of glass in old garage doors, and 3 of them have
Boy,
I guess if
suffered the fate of having rotary mowers
Shooting things.
crack the glass.
this was a glass storefront type door. It was nothing special to begin with.
Okay, so,
So why can't the county just buy a new door, stick it in there, you know? I guess not.
I think it's just the speed, so prime tourist season and it's looking a little
do
shabby.
you know who the county authority might be with respect parks?
Richard Martin. But I'm sure that the county's probably talking to Parks.
Right. Okay, so I just said that I would bring it up and if there was
Right.
anything.
Well, an email inquiry into, how it will be handled. Does it need, does
I
it
would
need,
email our Parks, though.
does it need a certificate of appropriateness to? It's a town landmark.
If they replace the door in kind, I wouldn't think
No,
so.
no, not if it's in kind.
Just a little
Right, it
awkward
offers
emailing
maintenance.
Parks after the
Yes.
sign
Yeah.
incident.
They took the sign down.
They did. They were very good about that.
Okay, anything else for us to be considering?
I sent you that email about the 2 CPF acquisitions.
Yes,
I think I CC'd you.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
did,
the-
you did. Which ones were they?
It's the Quantic Bay, Quantic Bay Lane property with the 17
Yes,
house.
yeah, the Wines?
Atkins-
Was it
Atkins.
Wines or how? I think it was Wines was the, yeah, the main house, though, it had the fire in it.
Apparently there had been a fire there.
Oh, yeah, and I think I looked at that afterwards, and it's not
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Quantic Bay Lane,
Yeah, it's-
and the other one is Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton, which is it's an older house. It's being acquired for wetlands preservation, or, wetlands.
Pretty far from the wetlands.
Yeah, which is about 20% of the property, one end of the property. So the other 80%, which involves the historic house, goes with it, under the current attitude that's there. And there are more things that could be said about it, but I think I will wait for another day and time to say them about the way in which CPF has nobody, it presents, what was presented was that this would be an acquisition. The house is not landmarked. That was the way it was presented to the town board, but it is in the survey of historic resources. And that would be the case of these other houses too, the other house as well. So there's nobody who sits on the advisory board, and the advisory board is used to advocate for the acquisition for the property to demolish either by contract with the existing owner, or the CPF will demolish these historic houses on the property. So there really is a need for a voice.
Well, CPF has instituted a new procedure where they're consulting with the town historian on any acquisitions that involve historic houses.
That's not necessarily helpful.
That's what they've decided to, that's the process they've put in place.
Okay, but I think there's more needed to
Great.
provide for a better focus for the CPF approach to buying property down the road.
14, are we done on that one?
Pardon?
Are we done with that one?
Yes.
Okay, so 14 Pine Point Road is moving along very well. They should be starting to move the house very soon. They've hired Guy Davis to do it. We met with him the other day out at the site. The next big hurdle will be getting, well, not a hurdle, but the next big item is to get subdivision approval. I don't need to be on TV.
You gotta come to the
Oh,
microphone.
you can't hear me? The next step would be for subdivision approval at the planning board. So I think they'll be working on that application shortly so that they can comply with the ZBA conditions, that they do the subdivision and landmark the Diamond House.
Fantastic.
Great.
And one other thing, CPI is open for business. I emailed Ed about a week ago. I don't think we ever landmarked it. Of course, there had never been an application to landmark it, but now with the changes in the town code, the Landmarks Board, I think, could recommend that if you were inclined to do so. Did I send pictures to you? Or maybe I just sent them to you, Ed. The interior
Sent
pictures that I
yeah.
took, they kind of had like an open house there for some of the contractors in the building department. And then they, gave tours of the whole building. It was quite nicely done.
Did you go?
I did go, yeah.
There was another question about communication about some, and this goes not back to CPI, but to Flying Point Road, about having a rendezvous with the owner to inquire about architectural details that were associated with this plan that would involve Bill.
We can do that, yeah.
Well, this was left hanging as a prospect that the applicant at Flying Point Road was interested in getting opinion on an architectural concept he had.
Yeah, where did we leave that? There had been some emails between you and their architect and.
And his architect had to cancel.
Yeah, I'm forgetting now, but
I think he said something.
we were gonna do a
to
Zoom
that,
meeting,
just-
right? And you wanted to be able to have the
Right.
little
his-
sketches that you had done?
Yeah, but the architect couldn't get the sketches in time.
I forget what it was. I know he went on vacation.
Yes.
Right, the question was, is that going to kind of continue as the,
Yeah, who'd requested that? Was that you or?
that was
I think their
Jason.
architect.
I think
Yeah.
the owner
Yeah.
said, just tell me what you want and we'll try to do it. These are just rough sketches.
Yeah, I'll get back in touch with them and see if we can set that up.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
And anything else before we adjourn? Hearing nothing, we are adjourned.
Great Labor Day.
Summer hours, huh?
48.
I'll take summer hours.
What's that?
I said, I'll take summer hours.
Yeah, I know.
This is about the way in which